All right, I see you guys coming in. Yippee. Hey, Tammy and Rebecca and Chow and Suzanne. Hey, how are you guys? Ready to learn how to make some SVGs? How you guys doing?
Right, I see you guys coming in.
Oh, I better turn my volume down. There we go. 3 a.m. Oh, Tracy, I'm sorry. That's terrible. Have you been asleep and you just woke back up? Or you been awake all this time? Wow, that's bad. Chow, you live on the West Coast, right? So it's earlier there. What time is it here? It's like 1 o'clock here, so maybe it's 10 o'clock there? Maybe? I don't know. So anyway, wait a few minutes. I'm going to get myself some more coffee. I know I'm bad. I should be sleeping. You're right. You should be sleeping. I would be sleeping. Uh-oh, where did I put my notes? Right. Oh, there they are. Okay, cool. Some coffee. See what this side of my mug says? It's probably backwards for you guys. The other side is a I Heart SBE Silhouette Business Edition. 10 a.m. Okay, 10, 11, 12. Yep, that's what I was thinking maybe. It's 12 there, yeah. Oh boy, yeah, it's great, Tracy. I think I'd rather you be asleep and getting your rest. Yep, I see that is backwards. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. I've heard other people have a problem with stuff being backwards too. So, all right, we'll get started in about 2 more minutes. Or less than 2 minutes. So hopefully you guys had a chance to download those or to right click and save these little guys that are back here with the backwards text onto your computer if you want to work along. If you don't want to work along, no biggie. You can just watch and then try it out later if you want to on any image you'd like. Yes, I drink my coffee black. Now, if I have tea on the other hand, I drink it black, but I put 2 heaping teaspoons of sugar in it. I like it really sweet. Sweet tea. Hey, Maggie. You're from the UK, Maggie? You missed my coffee cup? Somebody else made a bad comment to me the other day. Some guy, and he was like whining about my coffee cups. So maybe I should do them and just forget about the whiners. He's like, I almost turned it off. I can't stand it. Oh, I'm sorry. I like having my coffee. So, thanks, Chow. Okay, I guess I'm ready to get started. Hey, if you guys know of anybody else that might like to learn how to make their own SVGs, please let the, I can't tell which camera, where's the camera on this? I keep tipping this, okay, it's there. All right, I keep, anyway, I'd like you to share this if you can with people that you know that might like to make SVGs, because in my opinion, this is a lot easier than Inkscape. I used Inkscape to begin with before I found out about this software for my Cricut or my Silhouette, and now I just use this instead. People are still, I hear you, Tracy, ignore the whiners. Yeah. Yay, hey, Christine. Yeah, so I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, I used to do videos on using Inkscape, so, and that was years ago, and people were still asking me questions about it, and of course I've forgotten how to do it. So I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't use Inkscape anymore. I use Silhouette. So I think it just blows people's minds, or they just don't think they can use it for their Cricut, or they don't think they should spend the money to use it with their Cricut. But it's just like buying any piece of software. I mean, you know, maybe you have Adobe Photoshop or something, or Paint Shop Pro, or you know, Word, anything. It's just like buying a program that you can use. Oh, thanks, Chow. Hey, Katrina. All right, let's get started so you guys can see what you came to see instead of me. Change to that screen. And here we go. These are the little guys I said I was going to teach you how to make into SVGs. And as I said, you may not want to make these guys into SVGs, but think of any kind of image that you can find that's legal for you to use on the internet. I'm not so sure the Disney ones are, but some people say they're fine for personal use, so use them how you think it's fair. But anyway, you could get a Mickey Mouse or a Minnie Mouse or a Pluto. Was that his name, Pluto? Hey, get Popeye, anybody, and do the same kind of technique that I'm going to show today. A couple of these had me stymied for a little bit because they were a little bit harder than I thought they were going to be. So, oh, you still have Inkscape in your head and you get confused. Yeah, I think this is so much easier than Inkscape. To me, that's my opinion. But anyway, all right, so let's start out. I'm trying to remember which one was really, really, really easy, and I think it was the pig. So we'll start with the pig first. So the first thing I have to do, since this comes in as a big group like this, yeah, I think it's easier too, Chow, was the first thing I did was I just came over here to the knife tool on the very left-hand side and clicked on the knife tool. And it probably really doesn't matter, like it did yesterday, whether I have solid or outline checked. And it really truly doesn't matter if I have auto apply on or not for this right now, so I'll just leave it checked. And I'm just going to draw a line between these two guys here, the giraffe and the pig, so I can just work on the pig. Right, like that. And that separated him out, and now I'm going to move these guys all the way over here out of our sight so they don't bother us. And we're just going to work on the little pig guy first. And as I said, I think he's pretty much the easiest one to do, so that's why I'm starting with him first. Okay, so I have the little pig, and if you're working along with me and I go too fast, just type stop or slow down in the chat and I'll see it. And I'll stop and slow down. Or if you have a question, if you type it in all capital letters, I can try to keep my eye peeled for those as well. So, and I need to quit playing with my cards because I'm sure that's making a lot of racket for you guys. Those are my note cards. All right, so I'm going to come up here. No, I'm not. Got the pig right here, and I'm going to trace him the first thing. Because if I tried to make him into an SVG just as he is and just cut him, let me show you what's going to happen. And the same thing would happen in Cricut Design Space. Let's move him off the mat. If I went to go cut him, I go to send. Well, I have to put him back on the mat to cut him. But if I click on the cut, you see what's going to cut? Just the box that's around him. Whether I have cut everything or just cut edge, just going to cut the box. So that's not what we want unless we're doing a print then cut, and that would be fine, but we're not. So let's go back to our little piggy guy, and we have to trace him right off the bat. So I'm going to come over to the trace tool, and as I always say, a lot of people say that looks like a butterfly. I think it looks like a piece of toast, and I remember toast and trace both start with a T. I need to get out of Design Space. It's always messing up and losing my designs. Yeah, just design in this program and then just send it over to Design Space. That's what I do. So, okay, now I'm going to trace it by getting the toast. Here's the trace panel. And I'm going to bring it over here so you can see what I'm doing. So the first thing that you do is you just go select the trace area right there. I'm going to come over here and just draw a box around my little pig. And you see how that one traces pretty well? And I'm just going to leave it at the default, or the threshold at the default of 45. Now if you'll notice, his little cheeks aren't being traced. And even if I move the threshold up, well, it did do it there, but I want to show you something in his little nose. So when I move the threshold up, look at what it did to his nose. Can you see all those little yellow marks there? That's going to be junk that I'm going to have to get rid of if I trace it like this. It's going to be little nodes or little pieces of stuff that's going to cut. So I'm going to back the threshold back up again, and see, as soon as I try to get those circles, it gets that junk in his nose. So I'm not even going to worry about his little cheeks. I'm just going to show you how I'll do those in a minute. So that looks like a pretty good trace right there, and I'm going to put this back on the right hand side where I prefer it to be. Everything looks pretty good. Let's see, the automatic trace comes in about 45. It looks good. So I'm just going to hit trace. And now I can move my little pig over, and I'm going to keep him here so I can use him as a reference when I color. Okay, so right now I've got my little pig right here. Okay, yeah, good. This is a better program to use, I promise you. You'll feel like you're wading through quicksand if you use Design Space to do some of these things. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is, I guess, in order, did I do this next? Well, we'll see if this works this way. I'm going to come over and get a circle on the left-hand side where the shapes are. And I'm just going to draw a little circle in here while I hold down the Shift key so it's round, like that. And son of a gun, it came in pink because I already have pink selected for something. So I want two of them, and I want them to be exactly the same size. So I'm going to, while that's selected, you see my mouse is a hand right now. As soon as I press down the Alt key, watch what happens to the hand. It turned to a little arrow and a plus. So see, if I let go, it's the hand. If I click on the Alt key again on my Windows machine, change it to a plus and an arrow, and that means I can just click on my mouse and drag another one out of there. It duplicates it just like that. So that's perfect just like that. However, what I think I'll do is just move these off of here right now because we're just going to worry about this little pig guy first. So let's get rid of the trace panel. We're done with that. And the first thing that I like to do, for those of you who've been taking my classes, you know I do this, is I just click the outermost part of him. Then I come up here on the upper left-hand corner where the color swatch is. And you see where it's transparent right now up here where I am. I'm going to change it to a color I know I'm not going to use in my pig, a light color. I'll make it a light green so you guys can see it pretty well. And there it is, just like that. Perfect. You're going to see how easy he is to do now. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on him again, and I'm going to come up here to Object, Release Compound Path. Okay, and what that does is it puts a whole bunch of little squares all over him, which is perfect because that allows me to color these in any color I want them to be. So I'm going to click off for a minute and start clicking on them one at a time, the areas. So I think I'll do his face first. And I'm going to come up here to the color swatch area again, and if I want it to be the exact same color that he is, I can click on this little eyedropper tool and then click on his face. Now notice it's not going to be variegated like his is, but that's okay because I'm going to be using vinyl, and the vinyl I'm using, or cardstock, is not variegated either. So just going to be one solid color, and I'm fine with that. Okay, I'm going to come get his body now. And you see how easy this one is? Just going to change his body by coming up here to the color swatch. And since the last color I picked was that pink, I'm going to use it. It's still up here selected. Click. All right, let's see, what do we need to do? Now his ears are the same color, but I don't want to make them the same color. So I'm going to click on one ear, hold down my Shift key, and click on the other one. So I have both of the ears selected at the same time. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to make them a different color of pink just because I'm getting bored with that one. So I'll make them this color right here. Cool. And then the next thing, I've got to make the little muzzle part of the mug. So let's see, did I get that? I think I got the outer part. Nope, I got what I wanted. See that? I moved it. I could hit Control Z to put it exactly back where I wanted it. Okay, then I'm going to come up here again to the color swatch and get the eyedropper. Just get it here so I can make it the same color. That's cool. And let's see, I'm going to make the two pupils of his eyes, or I guess they're the pupils, they're white on him. I clicked on the left one, held down my Shift key, and got the one on the right. and then clicked and changed them both to white. There we go. Alright, the only other thing I have to do on him is the inner part of his nose, his little nostrils here. I'll click that one, hold down my shift key and grab the other one, and I'll change that to maybe a little light pink like that. Alright, so now you might be wondering, well, okay, he doesn't really quite look like this one yet because he's got all this green. You remember we changed that the whole outside edge to green at the beginning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go ahead and click on the outermost edge. And I know I got it because if I look up here, this color swatch area is green. If I thought I got it and I looked up here and, oh, it's pink, that's not the color I was trying to get. So I can click off again and click to get this. And it's green. And I'm going to change it to black. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's perfect. That's almost exactly what we want, but there's a few things we need to do yet. So we can either change this little piece right here that's the green and we can make it black so we have an extra black piece to put on top, or let me hold control or hit Control Z to get it back. Or what we can do is just click on that green piece, hold down your shift key and click on the pink of his head. Now, I clicked on the green part of his eyeball and the pink of his head. And what I want to do is I want to subtract out what is below this green of this eyeball and that. So watch. What I'm going to do is come over here, way over here, to where it says the Modify panel. And if you hover over these, it tells you the name of them. So I'm going to click on the Modify panel. Then I'm just going to click the word Subtract. It's going to cut a hole, and it just tells you there what it's going to do. It's going to cut a hole. Perfect. So watch this. I'm going to move his little head away now, and you'll see what happened. When I move his head away, look. That selected that right out of there, or subtracted it. Now I don't have to go ahead and cut a black piece like I might have changed this to black and thought I needed to cut a black piece to go on top of here. What I did was I just subtracted it out and that made a hole in the pink. So I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to I'm going to click on the green to select it, hold down my shift key and click on the pink and then say subtract. And once again, now both of those eyeballs have been subtracted out. And what you see is the black, let me show you this whole black piece that's underneath. Put this back. Okay, we need to do that to his nose parts and then we'll be done. So I'm going to click on the outermost part of the nose. And I can tell I have it again if I look up here at the color swatch area. Look what's selected, the green. That's what I want. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, select his pink face, come to the Modify panel if it's not already open. It's over here on the right. It's highlighted like in blue. I hit Subtract. Perfect. Okay, again, let me show you what happened. Oh boy, look at that. Subtracted that whole thing out of there. And the last thing I have to do are the two little outer parts of his nose. So I can select that one, hold down my shift key, and I actually can grab the other one too. And then select the pink and say subtract. Oops, wait a minute. I don't want to select the pink. I want to select that orangish color that's behind him. Okay, now subtract. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. Let's think. Let me do one at a time. Get the green. Get this. Subtract. There we go. One at a time's working better. Get the green. Hold down my shift key. Get the kind of tannish. And subtract. Lots of times you can do two at once, but for some reason that wasn't working well for me. Alright, I'm going to do one more thing so I can show you how you can make it easier for yourself when you take this over to Cricut Design Space. I'm going to make it so all of these pinky colors are the same color. Okay. They don't have to be, but just to show you how I'm going to do this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to edit, and I'm going to say select by color. And we don't need to do this if you're just using a CAMEO machine or 3 or a CAMEO 4 or anything. But it's very helpful if you have a Cricut. So go select by color, and this is going to pop up this little panel over here. And what I want to do is I want to come over here. Notice it comes in automatically. It says select by color by line. I don't want to do it by line. I want to do it by fill. So these are all the fill colors that are here on this screen somewhere. Some of these may be leftovers from something I have over here off of the mat. But I'm going to start with this one right here, this hot pink. When I click on that, watch what's going to happen on my little piggy. Did you see it automatically put all those selection bars or boxes around it? Let me select off of it again. I'll do it again, select it. Okay, that selected all of it. Now, the way it is before I do this process, if I move this, it's by itself. And if I move this, it's by itself. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to group them all together, basically. Kind of. So I'm going to select by color. And I'm going to make them a compound path. Okay, so now when I move them, they're going to move as if they're one piece. And if I sent them to my CAMEO or to my Cricut now, they could cut like this if I want them to. But the advantage of doing this when you're taking this stuff into Cricut is it's not going to come in as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cut files right here. It's just going to come in as one cut file that you can manipulate if you need to, but it just makes it come in much easier in Cricut Design Space. So let's see, I could do the same thing to that pink color. That's his head and his body. Select all of that, right click and say make a compound path. There we go. See, now they're both together. And the last thing, well, this is just one piece, so I don't need to worry about that. So let's get rid of this guy. Well, no, let's leave him for right now. No, let's get rid of him, sorry. Okay, go. All right, let's just make sure this guy's all grouped together. And I'm just going to make him tiny because we're done with him. Okay, so let's move him off to the side and let's see, who do I want to do next? Like I said, some of them are harder than others. There they are over here. I think the giraffe has a sneaky little part that I'll show you about. Let's see. I'm going to do the little dog here. And I'm just going to use the knife tool again to slit these guys apart. Hey, Michelle. Yes, I'm using Silhouette. You can use Silhouette software for any machine you might have, just like using Inkscape for any machine you might have. It's just software that you purchase, just like if you had Adobe Photoshop or something, and you can use it. Once you buy it for $50 or $60, it's yours forever and ever, amen. And you can cut this stuff out, manipulate things, and use it for any machine you have. And Tammy will continue to answer questions if you have some more in the chat. So let me get the knife tool again over here on the left hand side. And again, I don't care whether it's the solid knife fill or the outline. I don't care if it's straight, or hey, I could even do the dovetail if it'll fit through here. It will. Look at that. I can even do the dovetail knife. I can switch that apart. Isn't that cool? If you wanted to actually have a cut like that. Okay, so anyway, I could use it like that. And I'm going to bring him over here to the side so we can see, and he's not on the white mat. So again, we know, well, let's look. If I go over here to send it, whether this be at Cricut, oopsie, I got to put him on the mat. Whether this be in Cricut or in Silhouette or even Scan and Cut, what's going to happen if I go to cut him is this. It's just going to cut the outer edge. It's going to cut that dovetail stuff, which could be really cool if you were making a greeting card or something fun, but we're not. We want to make an SVG file of him that we can cut out of vinyl, or we can cut out of cardstock. So we need to go back to design, and we need to trace him. And this is how easy it is to make an SVG in this program. All you do is come over to this thing that looks like a piece of toast. Notice it says Trace Panel. Click on that. That opens up the Trace Panel. I'm going to select the trace area, and I'm just going to go like that. Okay, look at this one. This is not the way we want this guy to be. I'm going to show you why. Let's just trace him like this. And look at this junk that we have to get rid of if I traced him like that. Can y'all see that? Those of you who've been in my classes, you know what a nightmare this would be to try to clean this up, right? But there's no need to even have this jazz. So let me hit Control Z and go back to where we need to be before I did that. And I'm going to change the threshold right here. Right below where it says Solid Fill, there's this thing that says Threshold. I'm going to move that down so I no longer have all that junk like that. Okay, let's see. I'm going to scroll in a little bit so I can see better what I'm getting. And I think I'll just hit this button right here, the up button. What I'm looking at, oh, look, I just got some craziness of his nose. So I need to go back down right to about 16 maybe. I'm not sure, so let's try this and see what happens. And again, notice his cheeks aren't coming in, but that's okay. Oh, and looky here, his little mug didn't come in either. Okay, we can fix that too. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say trace. Let's scroll out a little bit so it's easier to see. Okay, this is what we just this is our original guy, and this is what we just traced. Okay, so what I can do now, if I want to get his little mug, let's say I had some information for myself. Okay, I was going to make this guy maybe a light color that I'm not going to be using in my dog. It's maybe a little darker so you can see it more easily. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the trace panel again, way up here. It's the one that looks like the piece of toast if it isn't open. And I'm going to get this little eyedropper, because that's going to allow me to trace by color. So I'm going to go say trace by color right here. And I'm going to select his little mug that I didn't get before. See how that traced some of that? Not as much as I want, so I'm going to change this tolerance right here. I'm going to move the tolerance. There's a slider, but I like to use this little up and down arrow sometimes myself. So I'm just, let me scroll in so you can see. See, that's still messy. That's going to leave some icky spots. So I'm still going in with this little tolerance area until it looks pretty good. So I'm also looking at the edges. I want the edges to look nice. I think I've got it right there. It looks great. So what I'm going to do now is, now did I do trace and detach? I'm going to trace and detach, and hopefully this is what I want to do. Two ways I could do it. I'll just trace it. Oh, I can't decide. Yeah, I'll trace. Alright, let me scroll back out. Unfortunately, I didn't make notes on exactly how I did him. Whoops. Oh, okay, there's his little nose parts that we need. Okay, let's move this over here. Now, let's see. Okay, let me look at my notes and see if I said exactly which time I wanted to do this. Okay. I think right now is when I'll do it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll in, sorry, so I can make sure that his nose is lined up nicely. So I'm using that little bug tool up here. See how it's off a little bit around his nose? So I'm going to highlight this part right here and scroll in a little bit. That looks better. And I see some junk right here that I'm going to have to get rid of. Let me show you the junk I'm talking about. And you see see that little thing right there? That's going to be a little teeny tiny cut that my machine thinks it has to make, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and double click right now. That brings up what are called nodes, these little square things. When I click on one of it, it turned into a white box. All I have to do is hit delete on my keyboard, and that'll get rid of that cut stuff. Same thing here. I double clicked until I got a white box, and then I just hit delete on my keyboard, and that's gone. So let me scroll back up. I thought I was doing the easy 1 second, but it looks like I really didn't. This one's got a little bit more involved than a couple of the other ones, but we're good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, what did I do? I'm going to come up here to Object and release Compound Path. And that puts all these little boxes around here again, which allows us to color everything. So I would color his face. Let's bring him over so we can see. Color his little face white and his body white. So I'll hold down my Shift key and grab both and make both of those white. I think I'll make them gray so you can see them more easily. Gray. Okay. And I'll make this ear, hold down my Shift key in this ear, and actually his tail as well. I'll make those a brown, and if I want the exact brown, all I have to do is get this eyedropper right here, click on it, and then I can come down here and choose anything. And you see how that eyedropper made these things I had selected the exact color I wanted them to be. Yeah. Okay, I think I want to make his snoz. See if I can get that to work. Yep, yay. And this part of his nose, even though it looks kind of black in the original, it's just a dark brown. So I'm going to change it to a dark brown. All right. So it's looking pretty good. And just like in the first one, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change this green color that we made right off the bat back into, or we're not going to get back into, we're going to make it black. Okay, so we can really see what we're working with, and it looks terrific. Except for a few things. So this is easy, making his eyeballs white. Click on this little pupil here, hold down the Shift and get the other one, and then just come up to the color swatch and make it white. Now, again, just like in the other one, I have these circles here. I want them to be black. I can make this black by coming up to this color swatch and change it to black like that. And have to have a little black circle that I glue on top of the gray or the white. But instead of doing that, all I'm going to do, let me hit Control Z to go back to where I was, just like that. I'm just going to hit this, grab this green eyeball, hold down my Shift key, and grab the gray, and then come over here. Now, it might seem confusing to you guys, but you know what? I've really only been using a couple of panels over here. And in a lot of our classes, we really go into depth on the panels over here. But we don't have to use many of them to do SVGs. It's so easy. Once you get to knowing 2 panels, probably, you're good. So the one panel you're going to need to know over here is this one right here, the Modify panel. Click on that. So what I did was I clicked on the green of the eye, held down my Shift, clicked on the gray, and then I'm just going to say Subtract. Okay, so what that did, just like in the first one, look what it did. It made a hole right there. So what do I see in that hole? The black from the background, or the main piece onto which I'm gluing everything else, or the vinyl onto which I'm putting the others. So this eyeball's done. So again, I could make this black and have to glue it on top, or I can just cut a hole out of this gray part so the black underneath shows through. That's what I'm going to do. I have the green selected, hold down the Shift, grab the gray, and subtract. Perfect. Got to do the same thing with his little mouth. Hold down his mouth. Select his mouth. Grab the shift, grab the gray, and say subtract. Perfect. Now look at this. See that? I don't have to cut that little shape out. My machine's going to cut this shape out, and it's gone. I'm ready to go. The same with the outline around his little nose. I don't want to have to cut out a little ring like that. What a pain that would be. So all I have to do is select that little ring of green. And again, I know I have that green ring selected. I can tell I do, but if you're not sure, you can look up here at the color swatch up in the upper left-hand corner, and you see you have something green selected. That's what you want. Hold down the shift and get the gray. And uh-oh, where is my modify panel? It's this one right here. And if you're not sure, you can just go hover over them. It tells the name. The modify panel has the subtract. Here we go. So what did I do? I cut that hole right out. So now it's perfect just like this. And this guy's ready to be made. Oh, except for if I want to put some cheeks on him. And then I would just do those by coming over here to the shape and make a little round shape, whatever size you like, whatever color you like. Then look at the hand. Look at my hand of my mouse. It's a hand right now. As soon as I hold down the Alt key, see it change to a plus sign. And when it's a plus sign, that means I can just drag another one over there. And I could show you right now how to align them and make sure they're aligned and all that, but we don't want to go through too many details and drive you guys crazy. So that's good enough for today, other than if you were taking this to Cricut. Again, what I would do is come up here to Edit, select by color. Here are all the, and it's already by fill since I had that open already. So I would select these colors. Like here's the gray that I made his body and his head. When I click on that, both of them are selected over here. I could right click and say make a compound path. So rather than my machine thinking this is two different pieces, or when I send this to Cricut, it'll think this is one big cut, and I won't have a million little pieces coming in. And I'll show you that maybe at the very end if I remember, or someone reminds me. So if I get this brown color right here, over here in the select by color panel, notice it's selected his little mug, his tail, and his ears. I can just grab that and say make compound path. So again, when this goes to Cricut, rather than Cricut thinking it's 1, 2, 3, 4 separate pieces, it's going to think it's one cut file, and it's going to come into Cricut much more easily. And so I would do it to the cheeks or the eyes and that kind of thing too. Okay, Michelle, the basic one, if you have a silhouette machine, the basic one's the free one, and there are a lot of things that you can do with that just to play with, but there are some things that you cannot do. If you have a Cricut machine, you have to have the business edition, because when you come up here to File, and you want to save something that you did, I can show you. Let's look here. If I go to File and Save As, I'm going to save it to my hard drive. Look at these options down here that I'm giving for saving. I can save it as a silhouette file, an SVG, a PNG, a JPEG. Okay, this is in the business edition. All these options to save it. And if you have a Cricut machine, you have to be able to save it as an SVG. So let me show you this other thing though. If I switch mine, and you can go to Help, and I can say View in Standard Edition, which is the basic edition. There's a lot of tools that just got sucked up and gone here, but you can still do a lot. But if you have a Cricut machine, if you try to make something over here, and then you go to File, Save As, Save to Hard Drive, when you come down here to Save As Type, you only have two types, a Silhouette Studio version 3 and version 2 and a GSP. None of those will work for Cricut. And that's why you have to have the business edition for Cricut, because that's the only one that allows you to save it as an SVG, a PNG, and a JPEG. All right, so let me delete this guy now. We're done with him. don't think I saw any questions about him. Okay, whoops. Okay, let's see who else we got over here. Okay, I'll go after the giraffe next. He's got a piece in here, and we're not this Saturday in our live class, but next Saturday we're going to be talking again about nodes. And this guy's got some nodes that we need to work on to have this to work. So let me scroll out just a little bit, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. You get the knife, and just so you can see what other shapes we have. Oh, look, I'm still in the basic edition, so I only have these 1, 2, 3, 4 different styles for the knife. I'm going to go back to my business edition, view in business edition. It's going to give me more tools. And now I have all these different kinds that I can use the knife, and this is how it will cut. I think I'll use the serrated this time. Don't have to have a special blade on my machine. Don't have to have anything fancy. Don't have to have the maker with the fancy machine. You can just do this in the Cricut Explorer Air 2. That's what I have. So right now it's going to cut just like that. It would cut that. And it just actually cut it apart just like that. Look at there. And if I sent this to my machine, that is how my machine was going to cut this. I don't have to have a fancy blade. Let's move him out of the way. And Piggy Wiggy. So we're on this guy now. And again, we cannot use this as it is. We've got to trace it. So these are the two tools we've basically been using. The trace panel and the modify panel. Those two. Trace and modify. But I promise you, if you get this for your Cricut or any machine, your Silhouette, another one you're going to absolutely love is the offset panel. If you want to make cake toppers or text with pretty offsets on it, different colors, beautiful text, you'll know this tool almost immediately. But anyway, right now what we need is the toast or the trace panel, because we're making this into an SVG. So I'm just going to come over here to select the trace area. That's going to allow me to draw a box around my giraffe. Let's say I don't get them all in there. Is that a problem? Nah, not really. See this little box right here in the middle? I could just go ahead and drag that out to get him whatever part of him I missed. Okay, that's a pretty good trace. Let me go back and just see. Oh, wait. Okay, so what I had it at originally was like that. If I make it go down some. Okay, I want you to watch this area right here between his two little, whatever those things are called, nubbins, antennas, horns. So right now, look at that area between his horns. Okay, now watch it. Okay, keep watching. Okay, see that? That's the way I want it to be. Because that means that's going to allow me to color this section in here a certain color, each one of these little sticks on his horn a color, and the balls there a color, and this ear a special color. But that's the issue. And those of you in my classes, you know that's going to be an issue. Right? You can see that. You know how to change it probably. But let's go ahead and trace. And move him off. Oh, I didn't pay attention. Look at this. I don't want this one. Look at his eyes. Look at all that junk in there. I don't like that trace. I would not want to have to delete and get rid of all these little nodes. So I'm going to hit Control Z till I go back. I'm going to do, oh, I should have seen it, right? Watch this. So what I did was I moved my threshold down. Can't remember. I wish I had checked what number I had it at, but this number I can tell this part of the threshold's no good, because if we scroll in here, see that little junk right there in his little nose, his nostril? Okay, so I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna change my threshold. Now I don't know, let's see. Yeah, I'm going down on the threshold, and that got rid of that little bit of junk that was there. Ooh, but I still have some junk in his eyeball. Can I get rid of that? Wonder if I go down, if that'll make it any better. Nope, that's making it worse. So let's go up a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. I still see a little tiny dot right here in his lower on your right side nostril, right there where my finger is, but I can get rid of that. So let's see how this one's going to work. I'm just going to trace it, scroll out a bit, move that over. Okay, it's looking much better than what I had before though. Let's look at it. See that? That doesn't have nearly as much junk as before. Actually, let's scroll in and see if we can see the junk I was talking about. There it is. There's that one little piece. You see that? And my machine's going to think it has to cut that, and your machine is too. So what you'll want to do is get rid of that. And the way you can do that is just double click on it. And that brings up all these little boxes called nodes. And then when I click on one of the ones I want to get rid of, turns it into a white box. And I can just hit delete on my keyboard and it's gone. So now my machine's not going to see that. It's not going to think it has to cut it and make a little mess right there. So I can just click off and the nodes will be gone. There we go. Okay. So let's move out a little bit again and let's get started with him. So just again, same thing as before. I always do this. I click the outermost part and I change it to a color I'm not going to use, like that. Then the next thing that I do is I come up to Object and Release Compound Path. And if you'll recall, what that's going to do is put boxes all over the place. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, you know, you're going to turn that outside edge to black. Why don't you make it black right off the bat? I'll show you why I don't make it black right off the bat. If I made that black, looks great, right? But I have to release the compound path so I can see all those little squares. And watch what's going to happen. Object, release the compound path. Okay, you can still see it. Maybe you like it like that, but I do not. It's hard to see where all these little pieces are that you're going to mess with. So that's why I like to just go ahead and just make it a light color to begin with, like this. And then when I say Object, release compound path, I can still easily see all those inner pieces, right? Okay, I'm going to just start coloring him. So I can grab this part right here and come up to my coloring swatch. If I wanted to make it the exact color, I get the eyedropper and click. Perfect, except for his eye, and I didn't think that was going to be a trouble. That's going to be another issue for us, but we can fix that. Okay, I'm going to make these two little round balls right here by holding down my Shift key and grabbing both. I'll come up here to the color swatch, get the eyedropper, and make those both brown. And I think I'll just go ahead and make these other things brown at the same time. So everything's the same color of the browns. And when I go to select by color, it'll be easier for me. So what I did was I was just holding down my Shift key all the time I was selecting all those. Now they're all selected. And I'm just going to come back up here to the color swatch. And the last color I used is right here to the right of the eyedropper. So I'm going to use that again. Perfecto. All right. Now I'm just going to change his little muzzle color. Come to color swatch, the eyedropper, pink. Get his body, the color swatch, and I'll just make it the same color so it's right here to the right of the eyedropper, pink. All right, now is when we're going to have a little bit of trouble. I want to make this part right here the dark brown. So I'm going to click on it, come up here to the color swatch, get the eyedropper, pink. Okay, look what it did. It colored in his ear too, and that's not what I wanted. So that's when we're going to have to mess with the nodes here. Like I said, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we're going to go into nodes in class live, just like this, but on Zoom, and you'll learn how to do this more in depth. But for now, let me see, what shall I do? Nope, I can't move that out the way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just undo this because I'm just going to have it be so I can see it more easily. I'm going to scroll in for you guys. So here's the problem. All this stuff is connected together in one hunk, so it all changes color to the same thing. So if I double click on this line right here and I get these nodes. I'm going to look at this node right here. Can you see where I am? Maybe I can scroll in even a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to highlight this node right here. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say break path. Notice that made a red node here. When I drag on that red node, it's the path, the line has been broken. Perfect, just what I want. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here, because what I want to have happen is, you remember his ear that was right here on the left? I want that to be a closed shape so I can fill it in. So what I need to do now is I need to highlight this node, right click on it and say break path. Red dot again. That means I can break it apart like this. Now watch this. I'm going to take this part right here that I broke apart, and I'm going to take this red dot here that I broke apart, and when these two red dots get close together, watch what's going to happen. It's almost like magic. They're going to click together just like that. And when I bring this guy, whoops, I didn't grab the right guy. When I grab this guy over here to this red node, click, just like that. Now, let me scroll back out and show you what I can now do. I can now, since this is a closed shape, no openings whatsoever, I can click I should be able to click. There we go. I had to release the compound path, and now I can click on this one. And what color was it? I don't know. Was it the light brown? Dark? Oh, it was the goldy color or whatever. So I'm going to come up here, the color swatch, get the eyedropper, get that color. Look at that. Just what I wanted. And now I can color this part the dark brown too. Come up here to the color swatch, eyedropper, grab this color. Perfect. Okay, need to color in these guys, the little sticks. Hold down my shift key, get the second one, and change its color to that gold, I think. Yeah. So, eyedropper and the gold. And there we go. So he's pretty good, right? He's looking really good. So now I can probably make that part in the back black, so we can really see how he's starting to look. All right, he's looking pretty terrific. A couple issues yet. One of which is the nostrils here. Click on this nostril to select it. Hold down my shift key, grab the gold piece, and then get that other panel that we like to use. Remember, we're using the toast or the trace and the modify panel. We need the modify panel. We're going to say subtract. Perfect. So you know what that did. That subtracted the hole out, right? I'm going to do the same thing for this nostril. Click on the green part, hold down the shift key, click on the gold, and say subtract. Perfect. Can do it again for this big old eyeball here. Click on the green, hold down the shift, click on the gold, subtract. And this is a problem that I didn't realize I had before. So we're going to look at this real quick. And do you know why? What's happening here? There's an opening, as you can see right here. Look at that opening right there. That allows the paint to just flow right out. That's what we don't want. So again, we're going to go ahead and double click to get the nodes. And I'm going to click on one of these, right click, and say break the path. So it looks like everything's messed up now because it changed it weird colors, but don't worry about it. We're going to take this piece and bring it over this way. Remember, it broke it into two pieces? Same thing right here. We're going to right click on one of these nodes. We're going to say break the path, and that's going to break this part into two pieces. Whoops, darn it. All right, there we go. So now I'm going to drag this one down. Oh, I don't want it to connect to that one. I want the outer one to connect to the outer one, and the innie to connect to the innie. So I'm going to bring this over here to the innie and have those connect. And look at that. Okay, let's see what happens when I connect these two. Okay, let's scroll out and see if that's what we wanted. Yeah, that's pretty much what we want. So I think I might have to go to Object, release the compound path. Oopsie. Wait just a sec. Okay, for some reason I'm forgetting right here what I do. I know what I'm gonna do. Since I forget what I'm supposed to do right here, I'm gonna drag this, oopsie. Let me hit Control Z. I'm gonna duplicate this thing just because I'm not sure what I'm doing all of a sudden. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click on this one, hold down my Shift key, grab the gold, and go subtract by going to the modify panel first. There we go. And then, since I'm not sure, oh, now I can do this, super. So now I can just go ahead and change the color of that one. It worked out better than I had hoped. And now I can just change the color of this one to white as well. Okay, so I didn't need that spare piece that I thought I was going to need just in case. So let's go ahead and scroll back out and see if we're done. And I believe he's pretty much done. But again, if you're saving this for Cricut, what you'll want to do is edit, select by color, and it might come in by line, and you're like, what the heck? What am I supposed to do here? Change it by fill, and then just start selecting things that you know that you've used in this one. And there won't be this many showing up if you don't have all this stuff on your mat or on your screen. But so like, I'm looking for what I have on him. Well, anyway, I've shown you how to do that, so you know what to do with this one. Okay, and it might actually not work unless I have it on my mat. But anyway, he's done. I'm just going to group him, and if you're not sure how to do the select by color, you can look back again at the last 2 or 3 that I did. Okay, so let's get rid of him. Yes, I think he is adorable too. That's why I wanted to do him. So cute. All right, the last one. How long has this been going on? Almost an hour. Okay, the last one's the kitty here, and the kitty about drove me nuts. He was the hardest one for me. So I've got the kitty here, and I've written out some notes, so I'm going to be able to do him hopefully perfectly. Select the trace area. Select it. And the threshold looks good. And I'm just going to trace. There it is. There's my kitty so far. Then the next thing that I did was I said select the trace area by color. So again, I come up here to the eyedropper, trace by color, and I'm going to trace what I called his mug, his mouth, because that's the thing that was giving me fits before. And I'm going to go over here to where it says tolerance on the right hand side in the trace panel, and I'm going to move that up. And on one of the ones I did it, I only had to move it up to 2, but this time looks like it's working pretty well at 13, but I might want to scroll in and see if it's junky looking. Oh, let's see what's happening here. So actually I might want to do it even higher this time. 18 look good. So I'm going to say trace and detach. I think that's what I wanted to do. Now I'm just going to trace. Same thing I did before. I'm going to go back, scroll back out. So I should have his little mug right there. And I'm going to go ahead and make it tan by coming up here to the color swatch area and just make it any old tan color. And then, whoopsie, you scroll out. I'm going to put it over his face just like this so I can see how that's going to be, and that's perfect. But look, I'm missing his ears, right? Okay, let me show you how easy it is to get his ears. Now, you might think, okay, trace by color. Now, that really didn't work. It really, no matter what I tried to do over here, I either got too much stuff or not enough. That does not work at all. So let me show you what to do. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. That's helping me go back. So all I did was draw my own. And that's simple. Just come over here to the line tools. It says line tools. And you know, if you're not sure which one of these you use, try one and see which one works for what you're trying to do. I happen to know that the draw a curve shape works really well here. So I'm going to click on that one. And I'm just going to start up here. It doesn't matter where you start. I'm starting at the tip of his ear, the top of his ear. I just clicked and that put down a node. Click, click. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of tracing around his ear. See that? That's all I'm doing. I'm just tracing something. If I can't trace it by the trace tool, I'm going to get it just like this. When I get to the end, I double click and that finishes it and it fills the thing. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this ear right over here to this other guy. Whoopsie. Where'd they go? There he is. Come over. Let me get my other guy. Okay, here we go. Bring this. Bring this. And scroll in. And that looks pretty good. I think you can see that well enough. So there it is. It fits there perfectly, right? And I want another one on the other ear, obviously. So all I have to do, and I lied, we're going to use another panel right now. But you don't have to. You could just say, you could just duplicate it and then flip horizontally. But what I'm going to do, make it easy, is I'm going to click on it to select it and come over here to this panel. That's the replicate panel. Over here on the right hand side, it's right above the modify panel. So we've used the modify, the replicate, and the trace. So we're going to replicate this. And you have all these options here, which is nice in this software. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror it. So it's going to make another one of it, and it's going to mirror it. And I want to mirror it to the right of the one that's already there. So when I click on mirror to the right, boop, it made one. And all I have to do is move it over here into place. And it's ready to go. So now, I guess what I would do next is what I've been telling you all along that I do. Is grab the outermost edge and make it a color I know I'm not going to use. Remember, I know it's going to be black, but I'm not going to make it black because I can't see then. I'm going to use a color I don't use. Perfect. And let's see. Now I'm going to release the compound path. And when you release the compound path, you don't really have to know what that means other than it's going to put a whole bunch of boxes in your image. So object, release compound path. And those are all the little boxes that I can now color. Now if I want to, I could go ahead and change the outline to black, since all the other little boxes will remain the bluish or green color. I can change it to black if I want to. There we go. And now all we have to do is work on changing the colors. So just grab his head, get the eyedropper, click on there, perfect. Grab his belly. I could get the eyedropper again, but I can use the same color I've already used. Perfect. Okay, his tail I notice is a little bit of a different color here. So I'm going to click on one part of his tail, hold down the shift key, and grab the others one at a time, all the while holding my shift key. I'm going to come up here to the color swatch, grab the eyedropper, and change it to this color, which is just a tiny bit different than the other. I could even make it more different if I want, and make it bright yellow. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is make his eyeballs white. Click on one, click on the other, come up here. Oh, while I was holding my shift key down, come up here and get the white. And let's see, what shall we do now? Well, obviously I don't have his cheeks, which I can draw myself, and I don't have his belly, which I can draw myself and add on later. But what I do need to do is get his eyeball, hold down my shift key, select the outermost part of his face, come over to the modify panel and click subtract. Click off. Again, click the eyeball, hold shift, get his face, subtract. Okay, I want to get this part of his nose. Let's see, is that the inner part? Yeah. I want to make the inner part of his nose that light tan color. I'll just choose one. And then the outer part of his nose, and look it. I thought I had the outer part of his nose picked, but look up here in the color swatch. I don't have that bluish green color selected, so I don't have the right thing selected. So I'm going to try again. Okay, got it that time. Click on that, hold down my shift key, grab his face, and subtract. Perfect. Don't have this lined up just right, or it was the middle thing I didn't have. All right, so his mouth, do I have that? Yep, I have the greenish blue. Hold down the shift, get his face, subtract. And he's pretty much done, other than I would have to draw in his little cheeks and his belly and just add those to it. So maybe I would make his belly round, come over here to the shapes, get a round one, and make a round belly. And maybe I don't want it pink. Maybe I'll make it match his tail. So I'll come up here, get the eyedropper, get the tail, there. Cheeks, get a round circle. Hold down the shift key if I want it perfectly round, just like that. Bring it over here. That's a big old cheek. Make it a little smaller. Okay, hold down the Alt key. Notice it changes from a hand to a plus, which means I can duplicate it. Or I could hit Control and D for duplicate on my keyboard, and that makes another one. Either way you like to do it. Or you could right click and say duplicate. Whichever way. There's many ways to skin this little old cat. So that would be pretty much it. He's done now too. The only other thing that I would do now for him, once again for Cricut Design Space, and okay, I'll show you right quick when I take it to Cricut Design Space. So I'm gonna, let's see, edit, select by color. I'm gonna take the yellows. How come they're not being grabbed? Delete, let me delete that guy. Is there anything else on my screen? Yeah, that pig. Delete him. Let me put him on my mat. All right, and scroll back in. For those of you in Cricut, I'm just going to show you what to do next. So I should show you what to do first if you have CAMEO. All you need to do is go to Send. And right now all it's doing is cutting the outer edge because that's what I have selected over here, I guess. So I'm going to select him. Uh-oh. I probably should have grouped him over there. But I'm going to go to Fill. And I'm going to uncheck everything. Okay. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it cut the yellow part. And I'm going to use my ratchet blade. Use whatever blade you want to. And tell it what material you're going to use. After that's done, you can do this piece now. Select this. It's going to just cut those colors. And you can probably see that it outlined them over here. When it's done with that, you can undo that one. Let's see if you can see. Okay, there on the pink one, you can see a little bit. If I click on the pink, uncheck it or check it, you can see how it's putting a line around it. And that's showing what's being cut. Okay, so that's it for silhouette. And I can give you more examples or more information on that if you need it. But let's go now to Cricut Design Space after I save everything by color. So edit, select by color, select all this, and group. No, make a compound path. Okay, that's a compound path, all that together. So I'm going to select this. There's only one piece, so I don't really need to worry about that. And I don't need to worry about that. The only thing I really need to worry about is the yellow. And I'll make that a compound path. Otherwise, this would come in as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cut pieces. And I'm going to do the pink. Oops, the pink. Okay, the pink. And make it a compound path. All right, and move everything back over here. And for my Cricut Design Space, all I would do if I wanted to, I could group all this. Okay, and yeah, I have Windows 10. And I'm going to go to File, Save Selection to Hard Drive. And I'll just name it Kitty 4DS for Design Space. Uh-oh, I think I might already have that, so let me name it number 2. Okay, and say OK. I'm going to open Cricut Design Space. Now, I don't think there's any way you could have done this, made this SVG for yourself in Design Space. I mean, if by any chance you could have, it would have been so hard. Would have taken you that long to make one, and I made how many? 4 maybe? Okay, hopefully you're in my Design Space. Okay, I'm going to upload an image. Yes, see, I was practicing browse. Going to look for Kitty 2. Oh no, y'all, since it looks like this tells me that I saved it as a silhouette file. You see that? That will not work. I'll show you why. This is another reason why you need the business edition. Because if I try to open this, it says, uh-oh, you have selected an unsupported file type. That's because it won't take that kind of file. I forgot to go File, Save Selection to the hard drive, and I forgot to change it to an SVG. And now I'm going to name it number 2. And I've saved it as an SVG down here. And now it'll work. I'm not going to get, excuse me, that error message. Upload, browse, should be the very last one. There it is. Open, comes in perfectly. Save. And I'll upload it in. And I will just make it bigger. Now notice this over here. Look at, there's just this many cut files. I guess I didn't group his eyeballs together. But there's just this many cut files. If I had not made those compound paths, rather than this, the pink stuff being one file here, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So our layers panel here would be really large, and sometimes that overwhelms Cricut and makes it crash. So that's why you want to make them a compound path over there before you send them to your Cricut. Okay, I feel like I've really maybe overwhelmed y'all today, but it was basically the same thing over and over again, just showing you how easy it is to take an image and make it into an SVG that you can use for any kind of machine that you might have. And again, you don't have to make it into an SVG if you're using it on your CAMEO. You can just use it as it is, as a silhouette file. But if you're using it for Cricut, you have to make it into an SVG. Or if you were just making it for a print then cut, you would save it as a JPEG for Cricut Design Space. So does anybody have any questions? I'm gonna scroll back. I don't think I saw any in capital letters. So make sure you have subscribed to this channel here and hit the bell. So if I do have a live coming up or any new videos coming up, you're alerted to them. Let's see. Also, go to, oopsie. Here's my blog. Go there, and we have free files there. Here's our Patreon classes. They're a lot of fun, and it's not that expensive. You get a class every single Saturday. Everyone has been live so far. I think over Thanksgiving it might have to be a recorded one, because I may be out of town. Aw. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Barbara. And the Patreon is patreon.com/PattyAnn. Thanks, Chow. And remember, you guys, you might not want to make these little guys right here, but, you know, you might want to make something for Disney or something else that you think is a lot of fun. So, you're welcome, Christine. Thanks for coming. I'm sure the text on these guys back here is backwards, isn't it? Yep, I see it is now. Okay, well, let's see. I need to practice up on the tracing feature. Yes, and it's just trial and error, and you just have to practice and play with it. And like I said, be brave. Try this, try that. And those of you who are brand new, if you're afraid, oh, I don't know which button to hit or to try it. Try one. If it doesn't work, Control Z or hit to undo, or hit the undo button. Try again. It's not going to hurt anything. Just try stuff. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. You're right. That is funny. I must have been channeling my inner giraffe. Thanks, Rebecca. Please share this if you can. The more the merrier. And I just want to get the word out about how easy this software is. This is a lot of fun and it's easy. So, okay, I guess that's it if there aren't any other questions, and I will see you all again. Today's Friday, so I'll see my patrons tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, although we usually get there at 9:30 Eastern time because a lot of us like to just chit-chat a little bit beforehand, and then class starts promptly at 10 with some more learning going on. So, see you guys then. Bye-bye.